Welcome to the show. Welcome, welcome. This is Teresa B coming to you straight from Amplified Exposure Live. Today I have my guest, Jeff Smith. He is a domestic violence advocate, and he also has created some film pertaining to domestic violence. And he came on my show today on this lovely, beautiful Sunday because he likes me. So, if you're out there in TV land, in Roku land, YouTube land, Jeff is going to give us a little bit of his experiences. And then once we finish the show, me and Jeff are going to go watch some football. Right, Jeff?
Oh, yeah.
How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for coming on my show today.
I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, so we met because I posted things about domestic violence awareness, and you hit me up and you're like, hey, I know all about that, and I'm an advocate, and I also create film. And I'm like, okay, cool, this is perfect. And so tell everybody where you're located and how you got started.
Well, I live in a small town in Spartanburg, South Carolina. In Spartanburg County, it's Packlet, South Carolina. It's a small town. There's only 2 red lights in the town.
Okay. You got railroad tracks?
It's got railroad tracks. It's just a small cotton mill town. Just everybody knows everybody.
Right.
So it's where I was born and raised. So it's pretty quiet most of the time.
Okay. All right. And then you started on this domestic violence advocacy journey because?
Well, I started out, what brought it about. My acting career brought it out. I've been in acting for 15 years, and I said, well, this might be another stepping stone for me to get my story out. So I wrote 2 films on domestic violence, and both of them is going to be on film before long. And I write for Scars of Survival magazine, Pain the Purpose. And what all started is me as a child, growing up in domestic violence, not as a victim, but as a witness, a child, seeing the aftermath of what a human being can do to another human being, which is not pretty. So, that is what brought my story, to pen and paper and hopefully to film.
Okay, so you actually had domestic violence going on in your home.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, I had an alcoholic father, so it turned into beatings on my mother. So it was always one of those. He blamed her for everything that he was doing, trying to reverse the roles. In this, but she was a strong woman. She kept her faith through all of it, and she persevered. So everything turned out great.
All right. So at what age did the domestic violence start?
Well, I didn't start noticing it right away until I got a little bit older, and then I started noticing the changes. Sometimes, my mom would look good during the day, and when my dad would come and try to talk to her, sometimes, and then I could see, the bruises and the blood and everything that went on.
And did she explain to you what was going on? Did you ever ask when you saw the bruises?
No, she, it was, back when I was growing up, it was kind of one of those hush, sweep it under the rug type deals. Nobody never really did talk about it that much like they do now. So, it's changed a lot.
Right. So being in a small town, did other people know about the domestic violence that was going on?
Just mostly just a few family members. But other than that, that was, everybody, they tried to shield me from it, at a young age So I never did talk about it, never did bring it up in conversation throughout my adult years. So, so it was time to tell the story.
Right. So when you were younger, they just kind of closed a blind eye to it and continued to let it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That happens in a lot of households. Was that a common thing? Did you know other family members that were going through that?
No, ma'am. You know, just just in my family. So, try to just put on a smile every day and just act like nothing, was going on.
Okay. Do you have siblings?
I have one brother, one younger brother. He was born after my mom, left my father. So, he never did see what was going on.
Gotcha. And how many years did she put up with this abuse?
Probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, seven at the most. Yeah.
Okay. So if you're just now joining in, I'm talking to Jeff Smith. I chose Sundays of this month to talk about domestic violence because I'm a huge domestic violence advocate myself, and this month is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So I've had one guest on last week that told about her experiences dealing with her husband. Now I'm talking to Jeff Smith. He was actually a child that was growing up in domestic violence. And next Sunday, I'll be talking to a man that was actually abused. He was actually the person getting abused through the domestic violence situation. So I wanted to cover all avenues. So thank you, Jeff, for coming on today and telling your story. So you grow up and you see all this violence as a child, and then you grow up and you go out into society. Did you know that this was something wrong? Because, some kids that grow up in it, they don't see that there's a wrong to this.
Growing up and, into the adult, I never did think nothing else about it until, more and more people that I've connected through the film industry started bringing out their story and stuff. And it just started having flashbacks of, what I went on as a child. So, it's now I'm finally getting to where I can, speak about it and write about it and tell my story.
Right. So you kind of kept it all bottled in, walking around. Nobody knew that you were dealing with this situation. And so did you put it together pretty well? Was it something that you just kind of, did you have like any issues of anger? Were there any signs of what you dealt with as a child, as an adult?
No, I never did. But the marriages I've had, I never did, it never was no domestic violence. And I've made a promise to myself as I got older. And if I became married, had children and stuff, I would never put my family through what I witnessed as a child. So, I just thank God every day for the strength.
Yeah, well, your strength too. Yeah, you did pretty well. So when you started more people started to talk about it. You started to feel more comfortable about your situation. And then how did you start in the film industry?
I just started, in the film industry, just like any other person that started out as a background actor, just worked my way up through, feature roles, speaking roles, past 2 or 3 years. It's been a blessing because I've been, like I say, I've been meeting people of all walks of life. It's got different stories to tell. It might not be domestic violence, but it's their story of what they went through, as a child or a young adult, just listening to people.
Right. So tell us about that first film. What was the name of your first film that you created?
My first film is still on paper. I hadn't got it on film yet, but name of it is Evil, the Devil Within. It's about the alcoholic father, goes out drinking with his buddies. He's never at home. He's always late. His wife doesn't cook dinner. He's never satisfied the way he's living, on the wife part. So, he always takes his anger out on her. Every night he gets home, he's already drunk and he's abusive to her. That's basically my story on paper that I need to get on film.
Right. And do you have any partners or anyone to support the film at this time?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, I have plenty of people that wants to do it. And then I wrote another one. It's called By God's Grace. It's about a young man. He's a gambler. He's an alcoholic. He's, put his family in jeopardy 2 mortgages on a house to cover his, gambling debts. His wife done got tired of it. So he's sitting on a park bench. He's got his yellow folder with his divorce papers in it. And the homeless man sits down beside him and tries to tell the young man his story. So we're going to fast forward all the way to the end. So, the man has found Christ. He's turned his life around, and he wants to tell the homeless man, the good news and everything. So he goes find the homeless man. He finds him. He tries to wake him up, and he can't wake him up because he passed away, through the night. He tried to look for information, about the homeless man to get in contact with the relatives. Come to find out, he pulls a picture out of the homeless man's pocket, and it's him and his father when he was a young boy.
Wow.
So the homeless man didn't, tell the boy or the young man who he was. He just wanted to help him get his life straightened, before he made the same mistake he made.
Okay. So again, that sounds similar to the experiences that you had.
Yeah, similar.
Yeah. So your brother was able to escape witnessing this domestic violence. Right. Was that his dad? Was that also his dad too?
Yeah, we got the same dad. Yeah.
Yeah. So does he see him in a different light than you do because he didn't experience it?
No, he just sees him as an alcoholic, and both of us hadn't seen him in 30 plus years. So it's not. I hate to say it, but it's not something that I miss.
Right. So when your mom escaped from this abuse, where did she go?
Mostly relatives, mostly relatives' houses, to stay. And then, just after a while, everything died down. We got out on our own, and just, she did the best she could, playing mother, father, and working 2 jobs, and, keeping her head above water and doing everything she could to support us.
Wow. Is she still alive? Is she still living?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. She turned 73 this past May.
Oh, okay. Okay. What's her name? What's her first name?
Diane.
Okay.
Yeah.
So shout out to Diane for getting out of that situation and raising your 2 boys with 2 jobs by yourself and gaining the strength to do it alone. Kudos to Diane. So let Diane know that Teresa B is hugging her through the internet. I'm proud of her. So while you have been meeting people in the arena of domestic violence, I'm sure you've heard some very, very critical stories to where people weren't able to escape. Have you met anyone that may have a fatality or some sort while being in this business and reaching out to all these different people?
About the only people I've met so far is, people that had escaped it and, living their life a lot better since they've got out of the situation.
Right.
But right now I hadn't met anybody that's still in that situation.
Okay, so these are people that have recovered and now are living their life somewhere else. Good. So you are also a writer with the Scars magazine, is that correct?
Scars of Survival, and also Pain to Purpose.
Pains of Purpose. Okay, and when you write these articles, what are your stories pertaining to?
Both domestic violence, and
both domestic violence.
That and bullying, bullying. Yep.
Okay, and where do you find the people to write about? How do you find your audience?
Me, everything that I've went through, as a child growing up it's always different memories that trigger, different stories. So, just have to write it down when I think about it. If I don't, I'll forget it.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So they allow you to write a portion in these 2 magazines to basically tell tidbits of your story.
Right. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, nice. And how long have you been doing that?
I just started this year. A good friend of mine, Robin Shockley, which I know you done interviewed. Yeah,
She's a sweetheart.
she connected me with two ladies on the magazine. So you know, I got her playing my wife in one of these domestic violence films whenever we put it on film. So she agreed to play, you know, play the part of my wife in it.
Okay. So while getting the actors and putting everything together, is there some sore spots where it brings back memories where, you know, it's hard for you to continue, or are you pretty much to the point where you just want to tell your story and you're good with it?
Sometimes there's a kind of, you know, low points, but you
Mm-hmm.
know, I just like to tell the story and, you know, not rush it, but you know, try to get it over with before it starts triggering, you know, triggering more in-depth memories of stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm. So it's kind of therapeutic for you to write these stories and also do the film.
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
That's good. Because a lot of people don't like going to counseling and seeking help for these types of discussions. So I'm glad you do have an outlet, because I know it's still very traumatic that you had to experience that. Do you have children yourself?
I have two grown daughters and three grandchildren.
Okay. And have they experienced anything like you have growing up?
No, ma'am. No,
Good, good, good. That's a good thing.
no,
Just
no.
wondering. Okay, good. You know, with the pandemic, a lot of crazy stuff has been happening. So you
Yes,
don't,
ma'am.
domestic violence has kind of escalated because of the pandemic.
Yes, it sure has.
Yeah, have you heard of stories from different people that may have overcome and then have gotten back, spiraled back into it because of the pandemic?
No,
No?
mostly I don't, you know, I just stay within my realm, if you so to speak, my work, you know, writing or my job, 9 to 5 job or, you know, something. But I mostly, you know, catch the horror stories or if you may on the news or something about domestic violence, but I try to stay to myself.
Okay. Now, one question I forgot to ask when we were talking about the timeline of your childhood, did your mom ever get the police involved with the domestic,
Oh,
or did she just?
yes, yes, plenty of times. But you know, back then it was sort of you file a report, then get the restraining order. But you know, sometimes those don't help too much.
Yeah.
But she just, you know, like I say, she just had to become that strong person she is today and just get out of the situation.
Right. Well, thank God she was able to get out of it, because it is a sad commentary that when you get law enforcement involved in domestic violence, how they're really not helpful.
Yeah.
So I'm glad she got free, because they just really waste time. And there's been stories of people putting restraining orders out on people and still finding themselves getting murdered or in a situation that they can't get out of. So
Yep.
kudos to mama. Well, I do commend you for coming on here and telling your story, because I know it can be difficult sometimes, especially in a platform like this where thousands of people might hear your story. But the good thing is that this will help someone else. This will help someone else escape that violence. So again, if you just now tuning in, this is Teresa B. This is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I have Jeff Smith on the line. He is he writes film about domestic violence, and he also has 2 articles in 2 magazines where he talks about his experiences. And he just gave us the story about how it started in his childhood, which we have the one going through it, the child going through it, and next week will be the male going through it. It's a really serious thing. So if someone wanted to get some help for domestic violence in your area, what do they do?
You just call the domestic violence hotline. I don't have the numbers with me, but you can pull them up on your phone. You know,
Yeah.
look them up or call. You know, call your local sheriff department or police department and get it. Or
Right. So there is a national number, 1-800.
And more advocates today than there was back then. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so you being in that small town with them 2 lights, how far is the sheriff's office from your house?
Probably 10 minutes.
So there's no excuse. They need to be there when somebody call him, right?
Gonna
So,
look for them.
huh? Say that again?
So if they ain't there, we're gonna look for them.
Okay, I'm sure you can find them because the town is so small. You know where their hideouts are. You know who they hang with.
Yes, ma'am. I know where the hot spots are.
Okay, good. You make sure you find them if they give somebody a problem. Let's see if we have any comments. Someone just wrote awesome. She's listening to your story. So again, thank you, Jeff, for coming on. How can people reach you? What's next?
You can reach me on Facebook. You can reach me on Instagram at Jeff Smith 2741. You can call me. My cell phone is 864-529-4157. If anybody wants to talk, sometimes a family member don't like to talk to a family member. They like to talk to a stranger because, sometimes a family member's, too connected with a situation, and I encourage anybody to, talk to somebody before it's too late.
Yeah. I've met a lot of celebrities along the way that you would not believe some of the stories that I hear and the tragedies that certain people go through. And they tell me stuff because they don't really know me. They just know me from the show. And it's easier to talk to me than to talk to a family member. So yeah, you're right about that. So Jeff just gave out, he is bold. Now, don't y'all be calling him, asking him to deliver snacks or anything like that. Like, only call him for domestic violence talk conversations, okay? Because he don't have time to be playing with y'all. All right? You got to put that disclaimer out there, Jeff, because
That's right. Yeah.
You're a handsome fella. Some woman gonna be calling you, talking about, hey, Mr. Smith.
No, you ain't gonna have all that. I'll have to start charging then.
Exactly. So we don't want no mess, people. You call him about domestic only, okay?
What I do encourage any guys out there that has, any stories. I know they feel macho and they want to feel, proud and stuff, but it's, more guys need to speak out.
Yeah, absolutely. Because domestic violence also happens with males as well. So you are exactly right. So thank you for saying that. Well, it's been a pleasure, Mr. Smith.
Yes,
thank
ma'am.
you so much for coming on my show today. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep shining. Allow that light to shine. Allow to be that witness to people who need help with domestic violence. Again, everyone, it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month. If you need some help or if you want to talk to somebody, Jeff just gave out his phone number. I can be reached at info@teresabhowell.com. I don't give up my phone number, but you can always email me. You be safe out there, Mr. Smith, okay?
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Happy Sunday.
All right, you too. Have a good one. Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Keep shining, let it shine, shine like a diamond.